One, two,
three.
Hi and welcome to Coffee Not Found, the podcast for gamification and advertising. This week we are going to be chatting about gamification in the workplace and kind of how it can be used for team building opportunities. I'm Aoife. I haven't been on here before, but...
You were on the audio only, weren't you? In
Yeah.
the corner.
Yeah.
You've heard, well, you may not have heard her, but the Icelandic clock that gets mentioned every so often, that's Aoife in the background.
Yeah. It's my party piece.
It's a party piece. And I'm Colin, and I'm the regular. I'm normally here, unless somebody deletes the audio and has to do their own podcast all over again. Hi, Fia.
Anyway.
Hope you're enjoying the States. New York.
So I guess two things to discuss. So first of all is, how you can motivate people through data and gamify work essentially. And then the second element is kind of, events and activities that you can use as a team building kind of tool. So I guess first of all, just to say that, the basic elements of gamification have been around for years. So the whole kind of Employee of the Month awards, incentives for meeting sales goals, all the things have been around in years, and they come from the basic premise of gamification. And as a business, if you want to make your teams think about the company from new angles, you want everybody to be on the same page with values and with your kind of mission and what you're trying to achieve with your company. And it's a good way of kind of instilling those values in people in a fun way and getting them to...
Yeah. I suppose there's the difference as well, because a lot of those methods, the carrot and stick was money.
Yeah.
Which is an element, but I think it's a crude element that probably has less place than people think it does. Like, everybody loves getting more money, or mostly. Maybe if you're some sort of weird hang up on it. But for the most part, it's not... It doesn't encourage the right kind of behavior sometimes as well, as could be seen by bankers' bonuses and all the other stuff that kind of came around with it.
Yeah.
Whereas gamifying and rewarding, again, it always comes back to that thing of whether it's Sesame credits or otherwise. If you're gamifying good behavior, if you're rewarding good behavior, then it's positive. If you're rewarding bad behavior or you're punishing bad behavior, I don't view that as good a quality of gamification. I don't think it works well. So you've got some stats here then?
Yeah. So according to the Aberdeen Group, organisations who deploy gamification improve employee engagement by 48% and turnover rate by 36%. So in places where it's been implemented well, it has turned out positively. But however, Gartner, which is a market research company, has stated that they believe 80% of the gamification applications will fail if they're not designed correctly. So there is kind of a fine line between getting it right, I think, when you implement it in a workplace environment. Yeah,
no, I mean, you got to put some thought into it, and you got to, as well, you got to look at who you have in your company. So, like, bar me, we're all quite a young company, but some things work gamified. Like, I mean, if you were to introduce, bring people doing, I don't know whether it's in this any stage, the breakout rooms, the escape rooms?
Escape rooms, yeah.
So, I mean, if we went doing escape rooms, great crack, and great team building exercise.
Yeah.
I would imagine in some of the older companies I worked in,
that
there would be face palms, there would be just, I'm not doing it. There's a different kind of mentality or whatever I think required.
And it's about finding what works kind of for your team, the different personalities in it, I think. Like, not everybody is going to want to do, a fitness day out or obstacle course type thing. Not everyone's going to want to do an escape room. Not everyone's going to want to do a scavenger hunt.
Not everyone wants to go to a nightclub.
No.
Okay, so the whole thing is implementing it properly and getting it right and not focusing it on monetary means. So I'll give a couple of examples. Like, I always hate when all the examples are bad examples, as in, examples of bad stuff. But I do know, for example, one of the big multinationals that someone I know would have worked for, they had this thing where it was like, you were supposed to send you did this great job kind of, and I'm not going to use the name of it because then it's very, like, the company probably has some sort of trademark on it. But like, you'd say, oh, you've done a really good job. And you'd just send this like little pop. and they were totaled up. And at the end, then the person with the most would win a week paid off or something like that. There was some prizes along the way. But what was happening was some people were just being brazenly, if you were on the phone and they did something that helped, they go, would you just send me one of those?
Yeah.
And it became a marketing campaign and a popularity contest, and it completely negated the reason and message behind it.
Yeah, I have an example of that as well, where there's like a prize system, so you can give, you give your teammates points for things that they might have helped out on that's outside their day job, that kind of thing. But it got to a point where people were just like, throw me 50 points there because I'm 50 points away from redeeming it off a Michael Kors handbag or something like that. And it kind of lost all meaning of what you're actually giving the person points for and kind of rewarding good behaviour in that sense. Then.
It's that thing again where you're gaming the game. And it just...
And it had to be approved by managers and stuff, but they were,
They were complicit.
Yeah.
They wanted... It was their handbags they were looking for.
They don't want to make it look like, their employees not getting rewarded, per se.
Yeah. There's no really easy way of solving that. Like, if you deploy that on a larger scale, it's going to become... It's just going to become what happens, And even in my head already, I'm trying to work out a way around that and design a better system. But in some ways, I feel like I should only do that if someone pays me to do it. Then I'll do it.
But there's a whole arena of kind of like internal politics and stuff that you have to consider. Like if Mary and John on the one team don't get along and John sees Mary doing better than him on a leaderboard or something, what is he going to do to try and undercut that behaviour? Or I'm not saying that happens everywhere, but I can definitely think of some company styles where it would. So
definitely, if you're deploying a system like that, bear in mind it could be gamed, even if it's only a little bit. But I think as well, the problem is when in those in the one I'm thinking of anyway, it's that you reward the person with the highest.
Yeah.
So there's a drive to be the highest in there, whereas if you're recording it and kind of rewarding it in a generalized way, so as long as it's progressing, as long as you're getting something, you're getting the benefit, then at least there isn't this rush to be number one. Because because people can be very supportive of each other, but when you get into a competitive environment where there's a winner and a loser, that's when it stops becoming teamwork and it starts becoming an individual sport. And I think that's probably the thing to recommend. Like now it's twigged in my head. That's how you do it. You stop rewarding people for being number one, but you start rewarding people.
Or reward as a team rather than rewarding individuals.
I think if you can get because
that encourages people to collaborate rather than like everyone for themselves kind of attitude.
Because you could put a matrix in it where it's like how many. And it will be a weighted system where it's like how many votes from outside the team, how many votes from inside the team. And then at least it's being brought along. And that's probably, that definitely would be better. But
for the likes of kind of sales departments and stuff where people are inherently kind of more competitive and stuff, in that sense, maybe it kind of makes sense to do more individualized kind of leaderboards and that type of thing when people are looking to meet targets and KPIs and that kind of stuff. But it's not going to work for every kind of environment and every team. Call centres is another one I can think of where everything is tracked.
No, bad memories. No,
I know.
My first college job, my second college job was in telesales. And the things people would do to make their numbers. And it wasn't, you couldn't really do it at the expense of other, you could. Somebody did twig a way of making it worse for other people by coding things. So, and it's a really good example, the call system, when you'd make a call, if they weren't interested, you were supposed to mark them as not interested. But you could mark them as well as not home, call back later. And what would happen is guys on the evening shift knew that the morning shift were doing better than them. And what they do is all the really crappy customers, they reschedule for the next day in the morning time.
Sabotage,
and it was toxic in general, but, it just never, it didn't work that way. And as well, people trying to sign up people for products because they needed to make their numbers and
even in for call centre as well, in a help desk type environment, if you spend 5 minutes on the phone with someone, but you offer a great service and you get that person sorted, but you're apparently over the time you're meant to spend on the call with them.
Yeah, you're
down on the leaderboard because you spent more time in a call, but
our customers, they're the only satisfied customer.
Feedback, so like the kind of social goal element of it. So, if management are using it as a tool to kind of reward team members who are doing particularly well or recognise a job well done, basically.
Okay. And badges is one that has come across from standard gaming. It kind of came from there first.
Yeah.
And I do like, again, it comes back to that matrix approach where it's not one particular size brush fits all. If you have a badge that's like, you're earning a badge every day you turn up on time. I go back to Pokemon Go because it's just full of badges like that. But like, I had 20 satisfied customers this week. The next week you have 30, you have 40, you're accumulating them. There's all these badges to earn.
Yeah.
And it just gives a bit of pride to it,
The trick with that is kind of to make them a little bit elusive so that you're not just getting a badge for everything you're expected to do in your role anyway.
Yeah.
They're kind of only given to you if you're kind of going above and beyond or making an extra effort per se.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is that they're it's only an internal recognition type thing. You can't say, if you want to move jobs, you can't say to a future employer, well, I earned this badge for
catching 100 grass type Pokemon.
Yeah, that won't mean anything outside of your own company. So
yeah. It'll work if you're coming in for an interview with me, if that's a badge that you have. But, the badges it can be an internal system, but it is a nice, easy to follow way of kind of indicating, and people can kind of show them off or whatever. And as well, if you have an internal employee system, which the bigger companies would have, then it's a nice way, because as well, when you're going for job interviews internally, it's a nice way of kind of indicating it. And because it's an automated, in theory, it's an automated system, it does make it a more transparent system for getting kind of progressing in the career.
Yeah.
There is the need to reward it, but again, it doesn't come down to financial all the time. It's just the feeling of maybe pride in what you do.
But there still needs to be some kind of incentive for people to want to engage with it.
Yeah.
I think so, anyway. Maybe I'm just being millennial.
Yeah, it could be it. Yeah, well, earlier millennial to me. I don't know. I mean, I look at the likes of a Pokemon game and stuff, and like there's no reward as such. You just get badges and keep going and get more badges. But there is
But if you had a leaderboard displayed to you at all times of where you're doing in relation to other people in your Pokemon Go community, would you incentivize you to?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose I have a different mindset maybe in that, like, because it cropped up recently and I know we're going off on another tangent, sorry folks. But like, it turned out that all I was doing was helping out others. Yeah. Like I actually have, because I'm quite high level in comparison to all bar maybe 2 people in the area. And all I was doing was going out when people needed assistance and just helping them. And I got nothing for it as such, but just brought them along. Yeah. But there are some people in the same group, and you would watch. Yeah, all they want is to get their guy along to a certain level. Yeah,
and if you apply that to kind of a workplace setting, then people who might be further down the leaderboard might be an opportunity for them to kind of get a mentor, someone who's doing better, and identify kind of training opportunities in that respect. Yeah,
that's it as well. Yeah, because
but it also kind of makes someone feel like they're losing essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it comes back to this, you're rewarding good behavior, but if you have a leaderboard and people towards the bottom of the leaderboard aren't getting anything, you are punishing semi-bad behavior. And if it goes too far, for example, someone takes a month out to look after a sick relative or something, they fall right down the leaderboard, even though they were a great, where's the remit? Like, I mean, it was a noble thing to do. They needed to do it. Yeah. And now they come back and they feel like they've been punished for it.
Yeah.
So,
are they any less of an employee, like, because they had to?
Yeah. So I think I get the leaderboard and I get where it would work for some people, but I am always really cautious that that's not the only metric I would deploy. If I was designing a reward system, which maybe when we have more people in the company I'll have to, but at the moment it's It's relatively straightforward. There's
Ours would probably have to be food related.
We had some government ministers in playing one of our games, and they were having a great time, everything else. They came down here, they were doing another meet and greet, and an ice cream van pulled up outside the building. And all there was a queue of Nebula staff at the ice cream van, waiting on an ice cream. Everybody else indoors, meeting and greeting and everything else. But no, everybody bar Colin was priorities. And I think that's, and the line I heard as they went out the door, oh, thank God he came. He didn't come yesterday.
He hasn't been back since, actually. So one particular example I found of, again, it's using a bad example, but Omnicare, so they're a pharma company in the US, and one of their gamification ideas was to reduce wait times at their help desk. So they wanted to introduce a leaderboard per se, comparing employees, and they offered cash rewards for the fastest worker on the floor, but it actually backfired entirely. People thought they were being monitored too heavily and that they couldn't go fast enough, basically. So in that sense, kind of what they tried to develop, but wasn't holistic enough to kind of address the problem that they were trying to solve with a gamification system. So coming back to how you would design it, you really need to think about, what's the problem that you're trying to solve with implementing something like this, and will it in turn then make things worse because you're trying to engage.
You're superficially trying to solve it, I think, is the problem there. I mean, there's, in the lean startup kind of methodology, there is a thing about the 5 whys. Basically, if something goes wrong, you ask why, and then you ask why on that, and why on that, and why on that. And by the 5th why, in theory, you found the actual reason why things went wrong. If you have problems in your organization, you need to address the 5 whys and then incentivize maybe that. Not our wait times are too slow on this floor. We will reward people for increasing or decreasing wait times. Whereas if they've gone through the 5 whys, it might turn out that the wait times are longer because the documentation isn't there for this particular item, or there's a bottleneck, or there's a fault. And if you incentivize that, everything else would have been fixed in the right way. But you weren't just sticking a Band-Aid badly over it.
The Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, he's a really good speaker if you haven't heard of him. But his kind of teamwork methodology is that if 2 pizzas can't feed your team, it's too big of a group to be productive. So I think you can apply that to when you're trying to, define kind of the scale for the gamification process that you're going to roll out. So start small first and see how it works, like between one department maybe, and then try and roll out maybe across different departments. Don't just try and involve your entire company at once and think that's going to solve all your problems, because it could in fact do the opposite.
Yeah, I think the 2 pizza rule would be lost on us.
Oh, well, totally.
Yeah, like 2 pizzas is basically the 2 of us. Like, I mean, it's like, hey, let's experiment with, like, Amazon is just full of like people who just eat 1 or 2 slices of pizza, apparently. Okay, cool. And so, I mean, I think in the next episode we'll cover off, team building type games, what that could work. But this has kind of been very much about the gamification and rewarding of behavior. And to be fair, I'm annoyed at myself. A lot of it has been the negative, don't do this, without offering much in the way of solutions. Tune in next week, we'll have solutions of game building or team building that you can do. But I think the take home should be, if you are gamifying something because it's a problem in your company, make sure that's the problem, because if you address the superficial problem, you're only going to make things worse. If you are going to gamify, I think a leaderboard, I have to be very careful with how you implement it, because it will demoralize as well as motivate. And it might motivate the wrong type of people, demotivate the people you want to be motivated. Look at ways of building in a matrix, so it's not just one particular methodology that or one particular metric that you're rewarding, but that it's across the board, so it's not open to being played as much. Just look at badges and that kind of, not everything is monetary. Obviously monetary is okay, it's, everyone wants, I'm not going to go through it again, but yeah, rewarding monetary wise is great, but it's not the only thing. And I think if you're rewarding good behavior in general, that's better than rewarding the best person from a list. Yeah, and find someone who's good at cheating at games and tell them about the plan and see whether they come up with ways of cheating it. because they might save you a bit of time as well. Cool. All right. Well, this has been Coffee Not Found. We have a closing sequence now, so we don't have to do all that anymore. So we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.